Alright, just heading over to the Eagles evaluation now. I called them fraudulent last season, even though they were their hottest team. They won an 11-game winning streak in the NFL. The NFC East was practically the most competitive division. They were literally taking up the spot of the 2020 AFC North last season. Last season they come over with an impressive 14-3 run, where they were practically unbeatable, but had underwhelming shutout games when they devastated a 35-13 against the Pittsburgh Steelers, but they fell short, nearly struggling against the Houston Texans. Then after winning, 8 straight, they lose against the Washington Commanders. And then winning another 6 straight, they fell short against the Dallas Cowboys and the New Orleans Saints. Even though they were a hot rally team, they seemed to underestimate their plays, be too overly reliant over their dual threat passing scheme, and had an aging frontal offense. And it costed them after holding out a massive deficit when they were up by 2 scores around the first half of the Super Bowl, and then led an unanswered 13 points that held for the Kansas City Chiefs to come back to win their second Super Bowl in 4 seasons. And now they're the Philadelphia Georgia Bulldogs. And I don't know where else Nick Sirianni can attest if it was just luck, knowing like they were losing an ageful amount of depth around their front 7, and they pressed around a more youthful defense, and possibly still trying to get as much momentum they can with their exciting receiving core of Devontae Smith, A.J. Brown, Quez Watkins, if he can develop into a massive threat. With Jordan, with Zacchaeus Alamde, that had some good reads around the out route, and Dallas Goedert being a good, consistent Pro Bowl tight end, with Jack Stoll that possibly could, pull up, can actually back up with good first down reads around. They had some good third down conversions over last season. They still have a all-pro aging offensive line, so consistently swifty, and I feel like they had a way better offseason after getting rid of Gardner. They came from one of the top high-octane offenses last time, even though I think their second leading rusher was their quarterback last season. I'm not trying to detest the Eagles. They had a very impressive year. But if we're going by how their receiving core was, it was a bit atrocious. The rushing was possibly the weakest part about them. When it came to Trey Sermon, Boston Scott still reading out better third down conversions, and still relying on Miles Sanders, even though he did have a 1,200 rushing season, 11 yards, over a 56 success rate. Yeah, we had better chances scoring a rushing touchdown with Jalen Hurts than we were with a 25-year-old Miles Sanders. Or in that case, midlife crisis rushing back and knowing how cheap they are to replace in the beginning. That's why they were having these meetings to begin with. Even though Miles Sanders had a decent all-pro year, it was kind of better going for a replaceable and dependable running back that also went for 1,000, a bit younger, and can motion the offense a lot more and probably go for longer runs out of DeAndre Swift. Kenneth Gainwell, that's possibly going to take over that second string spot, and plus Boston Scott now pulls over to the 4th string, and Rashad Penny, so now they got some actual pass and catch options around whenever Jalen Hurts is in pressure. Fletcher Cox, Josh Sweat. We need to see how Zach Cunningham can press, because I feel like the worst part, the secondary and the midfield is not going to be that impactful for the Eagles. I like Josh Sweat, but Zach Cunningham could still give a lot of options up, and Nakabe Dean. Remember but Hassan Reddick, he's only going to be as good as advertised. They can push over an edge. and try to press as much. I think it's going to be a very blitz heavy Eagles defense, and not be as hefty over in trying to stop passes, just like they were. They allowed a lot of close games against teams that didn't deserve it, and that were really undisciplined around man-to-man defense, as we saw when they played the Houston Texans. I told you, these guys let out a lot of games that should be easy to win. And thanks they were in the Super Bowl last season. They opened against the New England Patriots. They faced off against the former NFC North champions out of the Minnesota Vikings, a newly formed Tampa Bay Buccaneers team, a team that they had a struggle with last season, and the only team in their division that issue a loss to them all from last year out of the Washington Commanders. Then they got the Rams, that possibly might be a breeze. The newly formed Jets. Then they got the Dolphins over in Week 7 around October 22nd. That might be tough around the second half of the season. They got 2 divisional matchups. They got 3 division leaders to deal with. And a majority of them were top-ranked defenses. Top 5 ranked defense out of the New York Jets. You get a young, impactful defense out of the Miami Dolphins. A scrappy divisional matchup against one of the top 10 defenses in the NFL out of the Commanders and Cowboys. And then after your bye week, you got the Kansas City Chiefs in the Super Bowl rematch around mid-season. The Eagles are in a put up or shut up to see if that Super Bowl run was either fraudulent or they're back to obscurity after winning their last Super Bowl around 2017 when they were just pressing wild card exits with Doug Patterson at that point. So hopefully, Jalen Hurts comes as advertised. The rushing offense could really bail out Hurts so they don't lose a premier quarterback they spent $250 million on. Their defense could actually give them some good takeaways. I'm predicting, and don't try to take this like I'm pessimistic on the Eagles, but I feel like they were really lucky over their strength of schedule that produced them into such heightened deep winning streaks from last season. And this time they're facing off against heightened competition with division leaders, top-ranking defenses, and experienced seasoned teams that, even though they might not make the playoffs, might make it a lot closer for the Eagles to even come out of it. And plus, a lot of teams out of the NFC East are a lot stronger. The Giants really updated over their defense and now got more receiving options. Got a more seasoned Daniel Jones that might be better off reading. There's going to be a lot more exciting NFC East games. And they're just losing a lot of seasonal depth, especially around their receiving core. So if AJ Brown gets out, that even though Devontae Smith had an outstanding receiving season, I think he went over 878 yards. They don't really have that secondary piece that can pick up the slack. Even though Quez Watkins and Zacharias were very impressive in the second half of the season, and especially around the postseason. But Devontae Smith was carrying out the ball when AJ Brown was really etching out those 30-yard first downs. And we know for a dual threat like Jalen Hurts, when the strong suit doesn't work out, they're going to manage their tight end. So I expect defenses to expose this Eagles offense. But seeing how competitive this season's going to be, and a lot of teams are trying to buckle up to try to redeem themselves, and the strength of schedule is going to get very difficult for the Philadelphia Eagles. I doubt that they can win over 11 games. So, please don't kill me. 10 of 7. But I still have them sneaking over as the division winners. But there's going to be some games that Eagles fans are not going to be happy with, depending on the Eagles' competition. But I still have the NFC East coming on as the stronger division. The NFC West is possibly going to be the most dodgiest division because of the quarterback situation. They're still coming up with some good rotational pieces. Injury history with the Niners is not looking good. And the Seattle Seahawks coming out of a really luck-based season. Even though Geno Smith was very impressive, and we know the Cardinals going to be ass, we know the NFC South is going to be trash, and the NFC North is just a bunch of who can actually take over the reins if Jordan Love is going to be good, if Justin Fields can live up to expectation, if the Minnesota Vikings don't pull the Minnesota Vikings, or the Detroit Lions can come out of this overhyped phase out of obscurity. So it's practically who can come out of the AFC again. But yeah, man, I'm excited for NFC East football. That's going to be possibly one of the better games to watch on primetime. But I think I'll be available around, if I can't go over to MetLife around Monday, I'll try to see if I can get some pictures and add that over to the IG, so you guys can visualize it, or I'll try to montage it on the channel. Thanks for watching. This is Sidelines Productions. We'll be back with further content. Yeah, 10 of 7. Not still double digits, but not as good as last year. Can't be a flash in the pan twice. That's it for me. Hopefully you guys can share this so we can grow over the channel over two really. That's it for me.